Do you want to see how the plumbing system in my van works? This is actually a pretty unusual setup even for van dwellers, because I basically decided to deconstruct how plumbing works. And I didn't want the standard sink setup that a lot of vans have, which basically just copied the RV model, which basically just copied the house model and tried to make it smaller. So as I was watching other van builds online and other people's reports, it always seemed to me to be a very clunky, large system for such a small space. And I was asking myself, why spend that much space on a sink? And I couldn't come up with a good reason, so I decided to deconstruct and figure out what was essential about it and just keep that part. And okay, I'm going to work as I'm talking. Let's see if I can bring you around here. So right now what I'm trying to do is to take it apart because it's really dirty. It's been sitting out here for a few years. It's been probably about, I did a little camping trip last year and the year before, but not much to speak of. I don't know which direction. There we go, this direction. So I'm taking apart the hoses and I'm going to replace the hoses rather than clean them this time. It's the first time since I built this out that I'm actually going to be replacing them entirely rather than cleaning them. And cleaning them at this point, because they are so gross, is probably just going to be not worth the time and effort. So basically, okay, let me see if I can retrace the thought process and clean up my trash in the process. So in a house kitchen, a standard modern four-walled living space that has health and safety codes and building codes and all of that, with good reason. Those are useful things and important things. But basically how the thing is set up is everything is modeled on the size and shape of the oven. Essentially, it's the largest piece of appliance that is in the counter space. The fridge is often the largest appliance, at least in the US, where we have these huge refrigerators. In Europe, there's often smaller refrigerators, but it's often like off to the side. So it's not really, like the rest of the kitchen isn't integrated into it as much, with variation, of course. But essentially the stove is this large box that fits into the counter setup. And it's got some burners on the top. So or the stove slash oven is what I'm talking about. Like it's this large box that fits into the counter. And because it's got this large foot space, you might as well have cupboards that sort of fit that next to it, so that it doesn't like stick out in a bulky way. And besides, you want some counter space so that you can work on it. So you might as well put those on top of the counter, on top of the cupboards. And there's a lot of space above, so you can put some more cupboards up there too. But I don't have an oven and stove like that. So while it does to a certain extent make sense in the standard kitchen, it doesn't make sense to model everything off of that shape here. And besides, cupboards seem to be inefficient. They're these large boxes with a lot of space that things go into, that that it's really only easy to access what's in front. And you can get to other things, but a lot of stuff gets lost in the process. And I was questioning, why should I replicate that when there's no need for the dimensions anymore? So if I take away the dimensions, is there a better way? And I decided I'm going to make my own cupboards that are only one jar or one can deep. So I can put stuff in them. There's nothing in them right now, but because I've cleaned it all out and I haven't repacked for the new trip. But why not have thin cupboards that are just one shelf deep, so that you can always see everything that you have, especially in this kind of system where I don't actually have a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not planning on, like, this is my pantry, but it's not a pantry that I'm expecting to be able to live out of for 3 months without visiting a grocery store or something like that. If I didn't need fresh food, I probably could, now that I think about it. But that's not the plan. Like, and frankly, in a house, we don't even do that. How many people have stuff in their house that they bought with the best of intentions and has just been sitting there because they didn't bother using it, and then it gets lost in the bowels of the cupboards? And like, this is a normal thing. Like, I even heard that there's a term for it. I don't remember what that is at this moment, but like, this is a normal thing. But anyway, so since I decided not to replicate the standard setup, which, like, van systems largely replicated RV systems, which have been around longer than most camper vans, or at least the popularity of them, and the RV system basically replicated the house system, the kitchen setup. And since I'm not planning on doing that, I made these shelves myself, which worked for the things that I knew that I wanted to put in them, with a little bit of variation for, I knew I was gonna change my mind at some point, although I didn't know how. Anyway, so I made space for the things that I knew I needed. I knew I was gonna have some cans and jars, so there's space for cans and jars. This little shelf is where plates and other sort of flat things go. Here's where I have two, one on each side, two bins where, like, kitchen utensils and things like that go. And then here's my my sink. And here's what all of this is leading up to, is this is my plumbing setup. Okay, so this is basically the setup. It's somewhat disassembled at the moment, but, like, it doesn't have the hoses in it. But essentially, I've got in the back space for 2 5-gallon jerry cans, which are not standard oil, like motor oil jerry cans. These ones were meant for water. They were specifically made for water usage. And it can fit 2. The other one is inside waiting to get cleaned. And then I have a plexiglass backsplash here, because it does splash, you can see, and there's a backsplash, a plexiglass backsplash on the other side too, so that my wall, which is made of fabric, doesn't get splattered. And I have basically a tub to catch the water, and all you need is a tub. And I wanted it to look pretty and match my decor and whatnot. So this is actually a flower pot, and I plugged up the holes at the base of the flower pot and sealed them. And so the water goes from the cans through hoses that come out of the can, and the hose goes into a pump system. And this is a foot pump, which I got used to operating with 1 foot. And then the The water continues out the other side through another hose that goes into here, comes out through a faucet, and I literally just bought the faucet, not the whole plumbing system, just the faucet. And it comes out, and I can hold my hands under here, or the dishes that I'm washing, and whatever excess water dumps into the flower pot, which is my sink. And I ran across this really pretty piece of scrap marble at a friend's house, and it was like just the perfect space. It's a marble countertop that was just left over from a project that he had done years ago, and it was just sitting around his garage, and he was like, ooh, that kind of matches your setup, your decor. That's kind of it. And then this is heavy enough that it doesn't really jiggle much, but I have some some sort of industrial sticky thing that like it doesn't absorb water, and it's not going to get gross, and it's just acts as a vibration to soothe vibration so that it doesn't jiggle and rattle along the road. And I have one here on the backsplash too. And then I have, just to be on the safe side, this strap wraps around and it attaches to the pole here and Velcros closed just to keep it in place as an extra safety precaution while driving, so that if there's gray water in it, it doesn't splash. And all that's ever in here is gray water. It's never black water. That's a different system. And then whenever I am done using it, usually before I drive, but not always, depending on this actual situation, I just undo this and open up the side door and drag it over to the side door and dump it out into grass or whatever. And since it's just gray water, it's just literally from washing my hands and dishes, that's all that ever goes into it. A little bit of food scraps. It's totally biodegradable, environmentally friendly, and I always used environmentally friendly soaps like Dr. Brenner's. And yeah, so I did that very much on purpose, because I knew I was going to be dumping it into the grass most of the time, or dirt. Anyway, so that's my system. It's a very, very simple system. Hose goes to the foot pump, water gets pumped through here, goes into the faucet drains into the sink. And it requires no electricity, very minimal upkeep, and of course I have to dump out the water about once a day, but if I had the standard RV kind of set up, I'd be dumping the water every now and then anyway. It would just be from a more official kind of tank system. But yeah, that's it. And right now, I'm just taking out the hoses. I want to take this inside and wash it out because my water is going through there. And this is drinking water. This is my drinking water. This is my cooking water. This is my washing dishes and hands water. At some point later, when it's all set up, I will give you a demonstration of it actually in use. And over on the side here, in case you're wondering, I've got some dish towels and washcloths, and these are cool. This is just an old towel that I cut apart and cut into the shape of a hand with 3 fingers so that I can hold on to something. I've got 2 of them. I've got a few more actually somewhere else. And I can use it to wash, and it's a towel that I'm washing with my hands that are like, it's handy. Yeah, anyway, so I found these really, really helpful for washing stuff. And oh, here's something else. I did notice that as I'm washing things, because I'm holding it and washing it at the same time, my foot is operating the foot pump, but occasionally something would fall, like I would let drop a fork or a spoon or something, and well, it's falling into the gray water, which, as I said before, is not super nasty, but I still want to clean it again. But anyway, to prevent that from happening much, I put a catchment in here, which is currently this. And this is also absolutely disgusting at this point and rusted out, so I will be replacing this too. But I wanted to show you and kind of preserve for my own posterity. This is, all right, so here's what it is it just acts as a catch so that when I drop something, it falls into here and not into the water, because the water level stays below that. I will always dump it out before it gets any higher than this, really. And what this is, it's a hamster wheel. I found this in a Petco dumpster one day while I was dumpster diving, and it's just a hamster wheel. And now it's absolutely disgusting and rusted, and I'm going to just be tossing it and finding a new catchment thingy. Here's one more item of interest. And yes, I always kept a screwdriver right there. That was just where it lived. When I made this shelving unit, I measured out the things that I knew I was going to put in here. I knew I was going to put these 5-gallon jerry cans in here, and so I measured it out so that they would fit. It did not actually occur to me at the time that there would need to be some space for tilting in order to be able to reach the handle to pull them out, or to in any way like be able to grab them to get them out, and that when they are filled with 5 gallons of water, they are really heavy, and that would be an issue. So what I did is I made this strap. It's just a length of webbing that I tied really well, and I put it around whichever jerry can is in front and shimmy it down to the very bottom, and it just stays there so that when I want to pull the can out, when I pull it from the bottom, it pulls out very nicely. And getting my entryway mat out of the way. And then I can just grab the jerry can and I can go fill it up or clean it out or whatever I need to do with it, and I can push it in. Pushing it in is a lot easier, but it still usually requires I had a whole system for this. There we go. And just push it all the way back, and then put the next one in. And I can pull them back out. Living in a van definitely encourages natural movement of the body throughout the day in very healthy ways, if I can put it that way. It was actually something that I very much intended and wanted, was to have more movement just built into my daily life. And this definitely encouraged it. Even though it's a very, very small space, you'd be surprised how much effort it takes to find and get to things. Because everything has to be so compact. Usually things are in back of each other and have to be pulled out to get to other things. Anyway, that's a whole nother video. I will probably make a video on that at some point. Okay, here's one more thing. This is why I kept the screwdriver nearby, was because when I'm filling up the water, which I had to do fairly regularly, with 2 5-gallon tanks, I could last a little over a week if I was conservative. But then when I need to fill it up, I would go into town and find one of those like water vending machines, or if I was visiting someone, I could fill it up from their house. And here on the, let me give you a closer look. So here on the top, the system that I devised was basically this rubber cap with a hole in it that just basically fits my, the hose that went into here. And I would seal it with this wire. There's an official name for these and I don't remember what it is at the moment, but I would just tighten it on and it's already pre-loosened and it just clamps on. And then I could pull the cap off, pour the water in or pour it out as the case may be, and then put this back on. But because this isn't a perfect fit, that's why I clamped it on. I think this is called a clamp. Anyway, and then tightened it down to, it didn't have to be perfect, it didn't have to be like bomb-proof kind of, it just needed to be reasonably well clamped so that it wouldn't jiggle off while riding down the road. And once I pulled these out, also I found here, this is an old pot holder. There you go. This is an old, and it's just sort of stuck there over time, and with a little humidity and the varnish, it kind of stuck to the varnish. But this is basically just padding that prevents the jerry can from hitting against the wood and rattling on the road. There are a lot of things in this van setup that I did to prevent rattling and jiggling and things like that. Anyway, that's the water system. If there's questions, thoughts on it, feel free to leave comments. I will make another part of it so that you can see it in action. Okay, it's 2 days later and the plumbing system is all set up and I want to show you how it works. So the 5-gallon can of water is clean and filled with water. We have new hoses, so the hose goes from the jerry can into the foot pump, and the foot pump pumps it, and it goes through another hose up into the faucet and out here. And all you do is pump with the foot, and we have a stream of water. And I can wash my hands, and I keep my Dr. Bronner's soap right here so that it's handy. I can wash my hands, or I can wash a plate or a bowl. For example, a plate. And the black splash takes care of any little splashy things. And I have a new grate in there that will collect anything that might drop. And then my towel hangs over here, and I also usually put a tray where I can dry things. But I'm going to put this back. So I'm also starting to set up my kitchen, getting some things back in here. I'll do another video at some point when the kitchen is all set up so that you can see what all is in it. But these towel holders, I love these. These are sold as quilt hangers, and there's a little marble inside that acts on friction, and once you put the towel in there, you can tug on it really hard. In fact, the harder you tug, the harder it holds it. But if you pull it to the side, it just pulls right out. I love these things. And I sewed 2 of them so that I can have 2 towels to the wall. And like I said before, my walls are, well, it's covered in fabric. There's more behind it. I'll do another video perhaps sometime if there's interest on my wall system. It's also unusual, even for van dwellers. Okay, so, let me show you the new grate. I'm actually really happy with this new grate. Like I told you before, I used to have a hamster wheel in here, but it was old, it had gotten rusty, it was gross. This is a grill for barbecuing, and the handle is, Actually, I have it here. It came with a handle so that you can use it like a real pan. There you go. Something like that. But that gets in the way. It doesn't fit here. But this fits in. It's just about the right size, and it fits in almost perfectly, but almost too perfectly because it's really hard to get out. So I put a couple of nylon zip cords on either side to act as handles so that I can pick it up very easily. And then it just sits in there so that when I don't know how well the video got that, but I hope. So I'm just pressing on the foot pump. When I'm actually living in the van, I'm very conservative with my water usage, but right now I'm actually trying to flush out the system. So I'm going to be pumping a few gallons through it just to make sure that any last residue of soaps or vinegar that I've used as cleaning is gone. Also, just a couple of other how I use this. I've got a couple of scrub brushes that I keep handy on this little hook thingy. And when I'm driving, I keep it inside of the cord thing I told you about that keeps everything, that keeps the flower pot in place. Oh, and let me show you dumping the flower pot. So to dump the flower pot, I unhook the cord, and this cord just goes around the flower pot, and then just pick up. Let me move you so you can see better. Take off the grill. And can you still see? Yeah, okay. And dump it into the grass. And that's it. It's very, very easy. And that's my water system. Easy peasy. No electricity. I like it. I will say though that it's, when I'm used to living in the van, because I'm used to the foot pump, whenever I want water, I've found a very interesting kind of side effect is that when I go into a public restroom or when I'm visiting a friend or when I did move into a house, it takes me a long time to get out of that habit. So like when I'm just washing my hands in a public restroom, I will notice when I turn on, or when I'm getting ready to turn on the water of the faucet, the muscles in my legs contract as if they're getting ready to press on the foot pump. And that effect lasts for quite a long time even after I get back into normal house mode. But it's just my body adapting. If I missed something, if you have questions, leave questions below, and I'll see if I can show you other things that are going on. Have a near wonderful day.